Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today we will be reading day 23 in our Soulmate September series, where you will switch bodies with your soulmate at a certain age for 24 hours. Now, I did write a chapter 2 to this particular story back in March, so you guys are going to get both of those chapters today. So let's go ahead and read Finding Family, Chapter 1. Patton had been preparing for this day. All of his companions knew that today was supposed to be his birthday, if they were counting their days right, which meant he and his soulmate would switch places for one day. Supposedly, it was at the time that Patton was born, but that knowledge was lost years ago with the loss of data centers. The world had fallen into chaos in the last 10 years, and there had been more important things to remember than soulmate details. Patton still tried to remember it all, though. He loved the idea of soulmates, and it was something to look forward to despite the chaos of the world. The surface might be on fire, the air unbreathable with ash. Prowlers who didn't need oxygen might roam the slowly decaying wasteland, but at least there was love. Where there was love, there was hope. Though, just because he was excited about today, it didn't mean Patton wasn't aware of the challenges. What if his soulmate lived over an untraversable distance? What if they never got the chance to be together? He was going to get to know how his soulmate lived, but what if he never actually got to meet them? Patton knew he couldn't focus on all of the worst-case scenarios. He had prepared a letter for his soulmate. Logan had prepared a map, and Roman had a full explanation of their compound prepared. He had friends who were going to support him through this. "You ready, Padre?" Patton nodded. "Are you sure you and Lo are okay with chores today? I would hate to leave you kiddos doing all of the work." "Logan said it will be easier this way. If your switch happened while you were working, your soulmate might get hurt. Plus, we've prepared for this. You've been working extra hard for a week, just so that today could be a lighter load for everyone." Patton pouted, but nodded slowly, before another thought came to his mind. "What if we have the wrong date?" "Please, Patton. I have no doubt in my ability to calculate the time of year despite the smoke-filled sky." Logan came in carrying a tray. "Now, I would suggest you eat something. Roman and I will handle the extra chores for the day. Since I know you feel the need to contribute to the family, I brought you some sewing." Logan made the air quotes and everything, and that made Patton feel better. Logan really was attempting to make them feel like a family because he knew it was what Patton wanted. "This needs to be completed. Remember tight stitches on Roman's suit. You are rather competent in sewing. And when you switch with your soulmate, this will be the least likely to cause them major injury." Patton smiled happily and nodded, taking the things that needed to be mended. "Thank you." He began to work on everything, trying not to focus on the ticking clock. He was so excited to see where his soulmate lived and get to know them vicariously through their lifestyle. Patton didn't know when it was all going to happen, but he didn't expect himself to blink and for everything to be different. He had been sitting on the couch, but now he was standing in the vast wasteland of ash and soot. Immediately, fear gripped Patton's heart. Was this where his soulmate was? Were they really out in such a dangerous area? What if Patton couldn't find them in time? "Remus, what are you doing? I know you enjoy the taste of ash, but put your respirator back on and finish what you went out to do." "I'm not Remus," Patton said, quickly pulling on the respirator, already feeling the pain in his new lungs from being out in the elements for such a short time. At least his soulmate had companions, people who could help them. "Don't play around. I'm not Remus." He didn't mean to yell, but he was scared. The few times he had needed someone to go out in the elements, it was always Roman. Roman was the adventurous one. Patton was not. Patton would much rather stay in the safety of the bunker, and now that he was out here again, he was quickly reminded why. The other voice quickly muttered something in a language Patton didn't understand. He was sure it was probably a swear word, and that didn't comfort him at all. "Let me guess. 25th birthday?" "Yes," Patton choked out, hearing a tired sigh on the other end of whatever comms unit he was using. "All right. You are going to follow my instructions exactly. Understand?" "Yes." "Good. Walk forward 20 paces so I know what direction you're facing." Patton followed the direction. Wonderful. It almost felt like there was a bit of sarcasm to that voice. Turn around 180 degrees. Walk forward until I tell you to stop. He could hear the person's voice muffled just a bit as they began talking to someone else. Virgil, get your suit together. I'm sending you out after Remus's soulmate. What? Patton could hear the surprised voice, but after that, it was a very muffled conversation. Patton just tried to keep walking, focusing on the sound of the voices rather than on the fact that he couldn't see through the clouds of gray ash that swirled around him. The voice grew quieter and quieter as they began to talk about something before the other person walked away, and Patton heard the first voice sigh in frustration. All right, still with me, unlucky duckling? Yeah, I'm here. Patton fought back a plea to not be left again. Being out and exposed like this was terrifying. All right, you're getting close. Just keep walking. What's your oxygen level at? I don't know. I've never read from one of these kinds of displays before. Wonderful. Patton tried to take a slow, calming breath because it would be okay. He had to imagine that everything would be fine. Virgil will sync up with you soon, and then we can get you into the base and figure this mess out. Though the voice couldn't see him, Patton nodded. He only had to walk another 5 minutes before his display beeped, and he saw a shadow in the distance. He couldn't help himself. He began running. Is that Virgil? It should be. It seems you two are on course to meet each other. When Patton got close enough to see the other person, he threw his arms around him, so thankful. Hey, he was being pushed off gently. We don't really do that here. Oh, sorry, I'm just not used to being on the surface. Yeah, me neither. Let's get out of here. Patton nodded. Oh, by the way, I'm Pat. Nice to meet you, but awful timing. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but I have a soulmate. Isn't that exciting? He asked happily, trying to push back the fear that was strangling him. I guess. Virgil led him into a dark bunker that didn't light up when the doors closed. But the doors still closed. Patton could hear the telltale signs of them bolting and all of his tension released. He wasn't bothered by the dim lights, but Logan would have chastised them about how proper lighting was important to mental health. Patton was just focused on the fact that he had managed to keep his soulmate's body safe. I'll bring Jay here to talk to you. He'll decide what's going to happen next. Virgil was starting to take off his full body suit, leaving him in nothing but a ripped purple shirt and black jeans. That didn't last as he grabbed a hoodie out of a locker and quickly put it on. Patton decided that he should get changed as well, but noticed something and let out a soft squeak. His previous fear gone and replaced with embarrassment. His soulmate had gone out in the hazmat suit, and nothing but the hazmat suit. Yeah. Remus likes to do that. Your clothes are going to be in the locker there. I have a feeling you will actually have the decency to get them on before I come back. What kind of soulmate had he gotten himself into? Patton blushed as soon as Virgil left the room. He began to undress, wanting to be quick, but also getting distracted by the scars on his soulmate's body. It was kind of hot, but also concerning. He couldn't help but want to kiss each scar better, even if it wouldn't actually work. It was the thought that counted, right? He got dressed properly, a bit slower than normal, but he still had perfect timing. Just as Patton was adjusting the fluffy black pirate shirt, Virgil came back with Jay. Hi, kiddo. It's nice to meet you, Jay. Janus, you haven't earned the privilege of a nickname yet. He looked Patton over carefully. Surprising. The gods may have abandoned us, but they still think soulmates are important. The exasperation was evident in his tone, but it wasn't directed fully at Patton. You are our problem for the next few hours, so how can you be helpful? Oh, I can cook. As can I. Yeah, but you refuse to because you say it's beneath you, Virgil complained, getting a look shot at him. What? I'm just saying it might be nice to have an actual meal for once instead of 3 things thrown together because that's all you had the energy for. Hey, no need to fight. I'm happy to cook. Have you two had lunch yet? If he wanted to learn more about his soulmate, he was going to need to have these two on his side, and nothing worked to calm tension like some well-made food. Patton was going to get to learn what he wanted about his soulmate, and maybe he could figure out how to get everyone together. Patton would love to have more family members to take care of, and having a second person who could go out into the waste was always helpful. In another bunker, Remus was opening his eyes to a room that was far too brightly lit. His hands were wrapped around clothes that he had never seen before, and everything was super clean. Whoa, J.V., you pulling a prank? I mean, I admire the dedication. Or did I finally go insane? That's pretty fun. Patton, are you... Remus looked at the man standing at the frame of the door. He was well put together and the kind of person who reminded him of Jay, but more serious. He was wearing a necktie. Who wears a necktie during an apocalypse? You aren't Patton, are you? Nope. Remus popped the pea. But you are kind of cute. Glasses have always been a kink of mine. I could be what you want me to be. I'm having a psycho break anyway. That is not... Logan just waved off his statement anyway. My name is Logan, and you've switched bodies with your soulmate, whose name is Patton. He has left you a letter to read. I will gather my other companion, and we can have a discussion over lunch. Oof. You're no fun. Not even a reaction. Remus plopped back onto the couch he had been sitting on, only then realizing that he had a set of glasses on his face. That thought made him chitter happily. He really did like glasses on people, and considering these were well taken care of, Remus figured his soulmate was probably a careful person. He grabbed the letter that was sitting on the table. To my soulmate. The handwriting was adorable, and Remus kind of wanted to know what it would taste like. But it would be proper to read it first, though, right? Remus began to tear through the envelope, reading the cute, bubbly handwriting that reminded Remus of some kind of bubbling goo. His soulmate had chubby cheeks, didn't they? The body felt male, but that didn't mean much. He'd have to take a look in the mirror later. Sans clothing. Hello, esteemed soulmate of Patton. It is a pleasure to meet you. The voice tore Remus out of his thoughts in both the worst and best ways. Remus looked up from the letter to see a person who looked all too familiar. His body reacting before he could even think about it. Scrambling over the couch, falling on the floor, he would have to apologize to his soulmate, but he flung himself at his brother. Roman! Roman, you're alive! You're okay! He cried, pulling Roman into a bone-tight hug. I thought I'd never see you again. He whimpered, lost for words. Rowan's voice got caught in his throat as he balked. Remus? Remus, is that you? Remus nodded weakly before pulling away and looking at his brother, squishing Roman's face in his hands. You still look like a dork. And you look like a dad. Hey, this isn't my body and you know it. He punched Roman in the arm. Don't bruise the merchandise, half-pint. The two began to argue and fight until Logan cleared his throat. Maybe you two can continue this once Remus is back in his own body. Considering you are both Patton's soulmate and Roman's brother, it would be advantageous for us to find a way to get you here. I mean, probably, but how are you going to transport me and two others? Two others? Yeah, I live with two others, and I'm not abandoning them, though V would probably like the setup you have here, he said, looking around. So how are you going to get all of us here? I got a brother to beat up. I will start drafting a plan. Do you have a communication setup in your compound? Oh yeah, DJ is the best at manipulating the comm waves. Good to know. Do you know what his signal is? Remus looked very confused, and Logan just sighed. He had a lot to prepare for if this was going to work. If I get you a string of 8 numbers, can you memorize them? Oh, hell yeah. All right. We can work from there. Logan walked away to start planning, and Remus and Roman went back to fighting and insulting each other, but both of them had a smile on their face that was bigger than either had smiled in years. They were going to get everyone together, and Roman and Remus would finally have a family again. Chapter 2. Interesting. Roman threw open the airlock before dragging 3 figures quickly into the compound. He didn't bother to wait for the lock to re-engage before he was trying to take off his suit. He was ignoring the angry yelling in his ear about not removing his suit. He didn't care. It had been so long. He had to make sure. This had to be him, right? Remus. Is that you? One of the other 3 figures also began to take off his suit, and despite the protests of the others, Remus had thrown his helmet to the floor. The airlock hissed, spraying all of them with a decontaminant as Remus and Roman flung themselves into each other's arms. They gripped each other with such reverent care before suddenly pulling away. I see without me around, your reaction times are slower, Remus said before punching Roman in the arm, and the 2 of them started to spar as the internal door opened. I'm glad to see that the 3 of you made it here. Patton is currently pacing around the med bay. I assume he will feel much better once he has gotten the chance to check all of you have not sustained any lasting injury. Yeah, cool, Virgil muttered as he took off his helmet. Just point us in the direction, Specs. Logan nodded and began to lead Virgil and the 3rd, most likely the one Logan had been talking to over the comms, towards the med bay. Remus went to follow, but Roman grabbed Remus's wrist. Who's the hottie? He whispered. You mean Virgin or Snakeface? Virgin? Roman laughed, but quickly covered his amusement. I'm talking about the one with the fringe. Oh, that's Virgil. Why, do you have a thing for emos? Remus asked, bumping his brother as they finally started walking towards the medical area that Logan was leading them to. Psh, what? Roman asked, bumping his brother back, but maybe he did. Logan looked back at the 2 of them, rolling his eyes. He knew this was going to be interesting, but he hadn't accounted for just how much it would be. It took Logan 3 months before he realized the extent of how weird things were going to become with the new people in the compound. He woke up, blinking the sleep from his eyes, and realized he could easily see the ceiling tiles. It took a moment longer for him to realize that he must not be in his own room, or his own body for that matter. He frowned, looking down at his hands, and he was actually surprised to recognize the hands. His head shot to the left, and he saw Virgil curled up in a cocoon of blankets. Logan was in Janus's body. This made things interesting. He took a deep breath and got up. Thankfully, Virgil was a heavy sleeper, so Logan was able to sneak out of the room and make his way to his real room. He didn't even need to knock when he watched his own body stumble out. Logan? It was strange to hear his own name out of his own body when he wasn't in it. Janus. Interesting. That's the same conclusion that I came to. Shall we discuss this? That will probably be the best option, considering that the 2 of us are barely acquainted. Logan nodded, leading Janus to the common area, but neither one of them started talking. They were both trying to wrap their minds around the idea of being each other's soulmates. Finally, Janus broke the silence. This does not have to change our relationship. You are aware of that, right? Of course, although there is something that insists that we should spend our lives together, that does not mean that anything has to change currently. I am simply fascinated by the implications. Implications? Janus turned to look at Logan, raising his eyebrow, and the logical man was once again struck with how interesting it was to see the facial expressions of his own face. It wasn't even like looking in a mirror. It was simply odd. Yes, well, after having some time to see Remus's personality, I would not have guessed that he would have been a good match for Patton, but they have balanced each other out. Janus nodded. Remus has been forced to take better care of himself now that he has someone looking out for him and making sure that he eats properly. I did my best, but there's only so much I can put up with. Patton seems to have a near endless supply of patience and compassion. Exactly. Therefore, it might be worth it to also explore our relationship more. Logan watched as his own body tensed. Was he always this expressive, or did he simply know his own reactions? In what way are you proposing? Nothing drastic. maybe a few more conversations outside of our work habits, analyze if there is anything else between the two of us that will pair together well. His shoulders began to relax, and Logan was trying to understand why the thought of deepening their relationship might have made Janus hesitant. "I believe we can arrange that," Janus said, a sly smirk playing on his lips, and Logan wasn't sure if he had ever made that face before. "Very well. Patton should be awake soon to start breakfast. Shall we prepare the kitchen for him? Otherwise, breakfast will take a bit longer. He's going to be overjoyed when he hears of this." "Well, there's no surprise there. Honestly, I'm beside myself." Logan looked at Janus with betrayal before the other male burst out laughing. "Lighten up, Specs." He stood, holding out his hand. "Why don't you tell me about your interests while I set the table?" Despite the pun, Logan couldn't help but smile lightly. This was going to be interesting, but that didn't necessarily mean it was going to be bad. Thank you all for listening. Again, this was day 23 of our Soulmate September series, Finding Family. I do hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.